All right, our last topic in this chapter is the drawing modes. And I'm going to switch back to the view that you all have. There we go. So there are three different drawing modes in Illustrator. Draw normal, which we've been doing, which keeps stacking everything on top of each other, meaning the first thing you drew is at the bottom of the stack. The second thing you drew is second from the bottom, etc. Then there's draw behind. When you're in that mode, whatever you draw goes to the lowest part of the stacking order or the lowest layer and is placed there. And then there is draw inside, which works really cool. It works as a clipping mask and it makes everything that you do stay inside of a particular shape. So if you have a single toolbar like I do, down at the bottom is where your drawing modes are. And you see the tooltip that says Shift letter D to switch through the modes. You can do that, or you can make your toolbar a double wide by clicking on these arrows right here. And I'm going to leave mine as a double wide for this demo because I like having these drawing modes all visible. So the first is draw normal, which is how we start every document. Then we have draw behind or draw inside. So the first thing we're going to actually do is make sure we have our selection tool, and we're going to get a file. We're going to open a file and then place that artwork or copy and paste it into this. So do a file, open, and from your Illustrator chapter 3, we are going to find a file called artwork.ai, and we're going to open this. And you can kind of tell, oh, look, there's some letters up there. They're really light. Here's a line, here's some art, and again, Command Y is our outline view. If you ever want to look, Command Y brings us back. So rather than trying to make sure we select everything here, oh, look, here's a line up here that I didn't know about. We don't want to do that. We want to just simply do a select and then all on the active artboard. So select everything on this artboard. Notice it grabs all of the elements and puts a bounding box around them. All right, then we're going to do an edit, copy, or Command C. So all of that is copied into the memory. We're going to return to our postcard and do a Command 0 to fit your document in the window. We want it to be our only artboard fit in the window. And then when we do a paste or a Command V, it's going to paste it right in for us and center it for us. We're going to click deselect, or we're going to click away to deselect so that nothing is active on the artboard. All right, the first drawing mode that we're going to look at is the draw inside artwork. So this half piece of, it was part of the apple that we did earlier, we're going to turn this into an orange. We're going to use this to be a mask actually and hold artwork inside of it. So click on this red half circle from our previous apple, and then we're going to go to our fill box and we're going to choose a color orange that matches the 0, 50, 100, 0. So this version of orange in your swatch panel. And with this orange half circle still selected, we're going to go over to our toolbar, and at the bottom, if you can see all three, that's great. Otherwise, you're going to have to cycle through with the Shift letter D. We're going to choose the draw inside. So click on that one. Might have to click twice, and notice how it put a dotted line around this object. If something is still selected, you can actually go ahead and click away from it to deselect it, but this draw inside mode, these dotted corners are going to remain, kind of warning us that we are indeed in the draw behind mode. So the shape you are about to add content inside of doesn't need to be selected at this point. We're going to take our selection tool and we're going to click the artwork that is inside the orange that we pasted. So down here from that Farm Fresh, the stuff that we just brought in, there's an orange. We're going to click on it and notice it's all grouped. And on the previous page in the tip, they told you how they made that if you're wondering. So it's the ellipse tool, a star, and a series of lines. So they made a star with lots and lots of points. They made the arms not come all the way in and be a sharp star. They made the arms be very thin here. And then they added these lines. So again, building with shapes, it's pretty cool. All right, we have this orange selected and we're going to cut it. So we're going to do Edit, Cut. It's gone. And now we're going to say Edit, Paste. But because we're in the Draw Inside mode, it's going to paste inside of this shape only. Now that we've done that, we're going to return to the Draw Normal. So come back to your toolbar and click on the Draw Normal object icon, and then come over here and click away to deselect. And when you do, you're really going to see the power of this. As you hover over, you can see all these shapes are still here, but they've been masked inside of this original half circle shape. We're using that as a mask. So now we're going to edit this stuff inside that we did. And we're going to try, for one thing, let's just take our selection tool and click on this. We think we're maybe getting that orange, but really we're getting the whole thing. If we look up to the top of our properties panel, it says Clip Group. So it is a group. It's not just one thing or another. The half circle shape is now a mask called the clipping path, and that and the artwork that we pasted into it, the orange, make up a clip group and are treated as a single object. So to get inside and modify that, we kind of have to go into that isolation mode like we've done before. So with this clipping group selected, clip group up here, it's selected, we now see that we have some options. Release the mask means let it go, it's no longer a draw inside, let it go. Or we have the object of isolate the mask. So we're going to click on that, and notice it's like we're in isolation mode. Everything else is dimmed out. The only thing we can work with is the current shape right here. All right. We're going to click on the orange artwork, and that is still grouped. And then we're just going to move it up until it's kind of centered more inside of this orange shape. So it kind of looks like the side of an orange, like the rind and then the inside of it. When we get it where we want it, we can either double click away or we can hit the escape key on our keyboard. And then we're just going to click away to deselect it. And this now is 1 unit. When we select it again, it's 1 unit. So that's the draw inside, which is also the clipping mask, the clipping group mode. The next one we're going to look at is the draw behind mode. So if you come over here and click on this center one, draw behind, what this does is everything that we draw now goes to the lowest layer. If I turn on my layers panel over here and spin it open, we're automatically going to be down here at the bottom of this. So rather than making something and then arranging it by sending it back, send it back, send it back, or in one step send it to the back, we're just going to go in this mode of draw behind. It's basically what we're going to do is we're going to put a background color on the back of this so that everything is stacked on top of that. So we are going to come up here, and if you're showing a line tool or a star tool, whatever happens to be the last used tool, we need to switch to the rectangle tool. And now we're going to remember these bleed lines that we set up at the beginning. And I told you that if you want color to run off the edge of the paper when it's printed commercially, you have to have the color go further than your printed document size, and then you actually cut it off, or the printer will cut off and trim this down to size. So instead of starting our background color up here, we're actually going to go to the edge of the bleed, and we're going to click and drag our rectangle all the way down to the other bottom right end of the bleed. And because I last used orange, it filled with orange. We're going to change that to be a gray color. So in our row of black to white, we have different versions of gray. And if you hover over each, you'll see the tooltip. There's no cyan, no magenta, no yellow, and black is at 10%. On this one, it's 20%, 30%, all the way up to 100. The one that they want us to use is the 20% gray. So click on that. And that should have put that in the back of our document. However, it didn't. What did I do wrong? Let me back up the boat here a second, folks. Well, I have to tell you, this is weird because we were in the draw behind mode. I can still see that. And this should have gone down. This is the layer we're on. I just went to my layers tab and the little blue dot shows us that's our active layer, and you can see it went down a ways, but it's still on top of all these other pieces of fruit. And I honestly don't know why that happened. It didn't work that way 5 minutes ago when I was demoing this to an audience of 0, of course. Now that I'm recording, we have problems. But if you're having the same problems, all we need to do is take this layer and send it down to the bottom. So Object, Arrange, and we can send it backward by 1 step or just all the way to the back. And you see how it jumped down? It's now the lowest layer, and that's where it should have drawn in for you guys. I'm hoping it did, and I'm hoping there's a valid reason for what happened to me, but at any rate, I'm not sure. So with this still selected, however, we don't want to bump this background around, so we're going to do Object, Lock Selection. And when we do that, we see the bound name, or we can't select it anymore. This piece of gray is just there. So just a reminder about bleeds. They go 1/8 of an inch beyond your document size in all directions. This will be printed on a bigger sheet of paper, and then it will be trimmed down to the finished size where the black line is. So at a commercial printer, that's what they're doing. They're printing on a larger sheet of paper. The color goes beyond the print size, and then they cut it and trim it down. Okay, some finishing up. We're going to arrange this to actually make it look like fruit. So if you need to, fit your artboard in the window, and with your selection tool, we're going to click on the apple, and notice we only get one piece. We haven't grouped this yet. So I'm going to hold Shift, and when I see that I have that other circle selected, I'm going to click, and I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to click on this circle. So now I have the 3 pieces that made the apple. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to group them. So now when I work with them, they move as one unit. And I'm just going to pull them down and put them how I see them in the book. Now, why did this apple go behind the bowl? It all has to do with stacking order. If you want to look at the layers panel, here's our red apple layer, and it is on top of, or behind rather, the bowl itself is way up here. I'll click on that and show you the little blue dot identifies it. So this is on top. So if you think of these as construction paper shapes, you have a big gray rectangle, then you have a pear on top of it, you have an apple on top of it, an orange, a leaf, a flower, a bowl. So the bowl is covering up our apple, the whole stacking layer. I'll twirl that shut and go back to properties. Then they want us to bring the pear, which we did already group. We're going to bring that down somewhere in here. Notice it too is stacked behind the bowl, so it looks like it's inside of it. I'm going to take our orange, which is one whole unit, and we're going to bring that down here. And we're going to take the lemon, and we're going to move the lemon over here. That kind of is floating out in front, and that's how they show it in the book, so I'm just going to leave that. All right, then we have some random leaves and flowers, and to finish it off, we're going to make copies of the fruit and leaf artwork. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to say Edit Copy, Edit Paste, which is Command C, Command V, and there's our pasted version. Another way that I showed you earlier is you just click on the item, have it selected, you hold down Option or Alt, as you drag away from it and you make copies. So as long as you're holding down Option or Alt, you can click and drag away. So they want these on the top of our pair, but we're going to rotate them. So remember, we hold off to the top corner, we get the double arrows, and we get something like this. And then we maybe take this one and we rotate it and we bring it in here like that. So there's the top of our pair. If you look at the image in your book, they have just made lots of these all over the place. They also take this star and kind of put it inside one of these, have some of these shooting out from it. So rotate them. Again, if you need to change your stacking order, if one of these happens to be on top of it and you want it below, you have it selected and you click the Arrange button and you either tell it to go all the way to the front, all the way to the back, which would actually be behind our gray background, so that's not good, or one step at a time, bring forward, one step at a time, go backward. And remember also, there's some shortcuts for that. Under Object Arrange, bring forward is Command right bracket. I don't know why I consider that the right. And the other one is Command left bracket, or however you want to word those. At any rate, those work to bring everything up or down one layer in your layers panel. We're going to talk about layers next week. It's chapter 10 in the book, but like I said, it should be sooner because we're already using it. So I am going to show you chapter 10 and we're going to talk about layers next week. But at this point, you have successfully completed chapter 3 in the book, and you may save this or not save this, and I'll talk about some practice files you can work on next.